Hey everyone, thanks for joining. I know here with Jace, another Q&A video, as well as Curt. But hey, exciting times. Took a ton of questions. I'll kick it off. The very first question is, how's my man Jace? So we can kick that off, and then of course, Curt will go around. But
I want to start with where's our man Jace?
If you guys get to know me a little bit better, I like to work remote and be like in the woods, far away from people as like much as possible. So currently, I'm in Lake Tahoe and I'm working on something, and hopefully, I get to talk to you guys a little bit about it more in the future.
We're starting off the Q&A with a teaser. Let's go around. Jace, first question I have here: how are you?
I'm doing incredible. I mean, it's been a really great, couple weeks in technology, and it's really fun just to see like what's happening in the world and what's happening with our company, and creating these pathways to hopefully like let them merge. And I'm probably the most excited I've ever been in the company right now.
All right, love that. Curt, how are you before we get started?
I'm definitely the most excited I've ever been in the company.
Well, fair. I mean, hey, leads into potentially raising north of $10 million. Probably helps that a little bit. So here, I'm just gonna start rapid firing some out. Here, the question I got. The next question: I noticed on the recent bought deal short form prospectus that a significant amount, estimated 1.2 million, is going to be used to build out ad revenue in India. Anything you want to touch on? They had here, of course, what can we expect, things you're looking at? I would love to ask.
Yeah, I'm going to let Jace answer one piece of that, which part of that money is for technology development to deliver what we believe is the Holy Grail, which is an integrated ad campaign across all the distribution platforms. So we think we're in a unique position to be able to say, okay, you can run your ad in a traditional television format, maybe a shoulder programming against the OTT or VOD stuff on OTT and mobile, maybe directly as other programming that's running on the influencers or content creator site itself. And so you get this very unique, holistic thing where you've got something that's organic in terms of the social impact of it, and in some ways traditional in terms of the delivery. Jace is building some stuff. We did an announcement a little bit ago, but he can talk about that in a second. I think the other thing is that ad sales requires ad salespeople, and ad salespeople are not cheap, not even in India. And having the right ones that have the right relationships and the right with both the brands directly and with the agencies is critical. And India is a big country. You need them in different places, in Mumbai and Delhi and Bangalore. And so there's some investment into human capital that can service the ad piece. The bottom line is that there's also a marketing component to ad sales, of being into the different magazines and things that people, is marketing to the brands, marketing to the agencies. So when you take all that and put it together, I'd say that's what most of that money is going to be allocated for. And also spent over time, not like spent between now and, the end of the month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jason, anything to add on?
Oh yeah. He pretty much nailed it. But I mean, the truth is, for the better part of the last, I'd say 4 years, we've been concentrating on the actual vehicle that is the Q, designing these technologies to be able to deliver, the aforementioned ads that Curt just spoke about in a, less invasive way. A lot of these processes are handled very manually in traditional, television networks, et cetera. But what we've built from the ground up is a way to integrate technology in such a way to make that frictionless. And I'm very excited about what we're doing with our partners within India, because they're very receptive to that, because, they want to be able to deliver ads as easily as possible. And we're facilitating that. And I'm extremely excited about it.
Yeah. Well, look, there's some other questions about ads, so we can get into it in a second here. But, going down my list, here's one about ads. Someone asked here, with the Q, what seems like growing so fast, I know projections could be hard, but what's an expected timeline to see some ad revenue come in? Any projections? And there's anything that we can expect? And I know, quote, it's hard to give comments for a public company, but I'm interested if Curt can mention anything.
Yeah. What I can say about it is this. First of all, straight up, we're not providing any guidance as of yet in terms of ad revenues. That's number one. Number two is we have expectations of extremely strong growth, particularly in the second half of the year. Why the second half of the year? I'm talking about the second half of the calendar year. Not, our fiscal year ends June 30. So second half of calendar 2021. Why is that? Well, there's a process, and I've spoken about this a little bit before. First, you've got to get the numbers. Okay, so now we're starting to get those. And by the way, we're expecting those to rise more. But first, you got to get the numbers. Then you got to put together the campaigns that you go into the agencies. Sometimes it's going back to them, but it's going back to the agencies and the brands directly themselves, doing the presentations, et cetera, et cetera. If anybody's familiar with how that business works, usually campaigns are not planned like 2 weeks in advance. They're planned a quarter in advance, sometimes even a year in advance, but they're planned in advance. It's not like a next week thing. So you've got to go in, you've got to say, okay, here, you know, Coca-Cola, we're running a Coca-Cola campaign where we want to target young women from age 14 to 21 in urban markets in India, blah, 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 blah. You work with the agency to go about that. You finally book it. That's all happening, just as an example. I'm not using this literally right now, but figuratively, that's all happening as we speak right now. Well, that ad campaign doesn't even sort of go in and start running until May or whatever of this year. Well, then you run it in May, you recognize that revenue. That doesn't show up and get reported until the quarter after that. So there's a lag time between how all of that happens. What everyone should expect and what we'll see is a very rapid ramp up on a quarter to quarter basis of what's happening. But basically what's happening in the quarter we're in right now is based on what happened a quarter or two ago in terms of our business. And what's going to be happening in next quarter and the quarter after that is kind of what's happening now, et cetera, et cetera. We believe we're going to have significant additions and impactful additions on a distribution level, and that's going to translate into significant increase on ratings and GRP. And we also believe that we're going to start to effectively monetize digital and mobile in ways that we haven't really touched in a big way so far. So all that combined is going to show you in the second half of the year significant and, you know, not to overhype it, but I'll call it dramatic increases in revenue into calendar 2021 and beyond. The final thing I'll say is at some point, we will provide guidance when this all kind of settles in a bit more, but it's still a bit too early to be able to do that.
A lot of moving pieces by the sounds of it, right? So I know it's been huge success recently, lots of viewership growth, and moving on, you know, kind of into the next question, you know, and this is something I thought was pretty interesting. You know, someone said, I can see how excited the team is about the Kia and Cebulta program. Is there any updates on viewership? And also, is there any way that I could see part of the show being in North America?
Yeah, well, the first thing is, we've spoken about our partnership with an app-based company called Chingari. So it's sitting there on my phone at that little flame up there. So you can download the Chingari app here in North America. And if you go into the area that I think is called Chingari TV, so you go into Chingari TV, we're one of only 2 channels that are there right now. It's ourselves and a company called Shimaru that we're actually in business with on their OTT platform. So we're the only 2 channels, so you can watch the content there. What was the other part of the question?
Around viewership, you know, just the quote, they see how excited the team is and they're interested in knowing any viewership numbers about the program.
Yeah, well, we hit, you know, this week we had basically, we were the same as we were previously. We reported 4.4 GRP. We had it, which was actually 4.39. We were 4.37. So effectively the same, 0.2 of a point difference, not a big deal. We basically had the same numbers 2 weeks in a row. Well, when you're on a high growth trajectory, you might sit there and say, oh, God, that doesn't seem very good. Shouldn't you have gotten a 5? No, I mean, the way that works is you reach new plateaus, you solidify. It's extremely good that we held that position. And so if you look at our numbers, you'll see us, we'll kind of get to 1 and then 1 to 2, 2 to 3. So we're growing. We, again, I'll say it again, we expect that to grow, you know, significantly over the course of the next 6 months and be part of what drives that ad growth in the second half of the year.
Yeah, no, awesome. Well, Jace, I got a question for you now. You know, you're not getting away all quiet there in the corner. So here, I've got a question. Someone said, what goes into programming? I would love for some more insight. And are you guys looking at current data to impact what you're putting live on TV?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, the obvious answer is yes. So some of the data that, you know, Curt just outlined, right? You know, talking about GRP data, you know, we get that very, you know, incrementally, we can look at it based on time zones. And, I don't want to go too in depth on it, but the short answer is yes. Right. And we can make these programming decisions, seeing what works in time slots and, what isn't working. And we definitely use data to help, change our programming on a daily basis.
Yeah. I mean, we analyze every time slot in a 24-hour day, Monday through Friday. I mean, so does any, network really, but because we've kind of got an unusual way that we program things and how we're putting things together. I think maybe part of your question was about the Insta show. We don't have any numbers on that yet. Everything lags by 2 weeks in terms of it that premiered on February 14th. So we'll get 3 days of performance on that in the next Bark ratings report.
Yeah. And this data is extremely granular. I mean, it's not trivial amounts of data.
Yeah, give some insight, maybe. I there's a lot of questions around kind of the magic that is the TV channel in India.
It goes by not just day part, it goes by demographic, it goes by region, it goes by on a comparative basis against what's running against it on other channels. You can tell when people switch on and switch off, all of that stuff. I mean, it's very granular. So we had some people freak out a while ago where our ratings dropped pretty precipitously 1 week to the next. Well, guess what? We did a big test there to see if we could change slots around, et cetera, and it didn't work. And so we went back to where we were. And so we're constantly, Jace is constantly working with the programming team and the guy who sets that up in India and physically, sort of not physically, but I mean, makes that happen. And we can make changes. We're getting better and better actually at making changes in shorter and shorter time frames. What used to arguably take us 2 weeks to kind of look at and figure out, we'll now do in 2 days, and going forward, we might do in 2 hours.
Yeah. Honestly, a great answer. I think there's a lot of questions about kind of the magic, and I think telling people to download Chingari and give it a look would be pretty cool. Maybe we can even throw up a little clip, but we'll see what happens. And this is an interesting question. Talking about time slots, and there's a question around competition, and I wanted to talk about it for sure. Maybe get both your views. As things are successful, there's always people that tend to copy. Curious, of course you have this, hit show. Are you worried about other people trying to do the same? How does that impact, but also kind of the competition out there for other channels? Is there any, kind of, I guess, things you want to talk about just on the framework of competition?
Yeah. I mean, I think what you said is true. I mean, anybody can, my standard response is anybody can open a restaurant, but once it's open, it's tricky to keep it open and then have it succeed, because there's so many elements that are involved in it, from pricing, ambiance, location, management, chef, you name it. Really, same thing in this business. I don't think there's one silver bullet. And what I think we've been able to do is build the base, because it's still growing. I mean, we're growing pretty rapidly. So build a base of a strong team across the various areas of programming, analysis, the tools that Jace has created to help them manage that stuff. The fact that we are, arguably the only outlet that's getting these social stars and their content into the television format remains for us very important. We think that's kind of a special thing that we're doing. And the one thing that I know, that we know without question, we are unique in the India marketplace. There's nobody doing exactly what we're doing. Like if we were running like a music channel that ran music videos all day long, well, there's, 3 or 4 of those in the marketplace. We're the only ones who are doing exactly kind of what we're doing and the style we're doing it. Could that be copied? Sure. But with each passing day, week, month that goes by and our ratings increase, people are going to get less emboldened to want to take that on.
Yeah. And I would just like to add on real quick too. I mean, Curt said something that I find very important, which is he talked about our base core team. And like, if you were to take our operation and compare it against, any other mainstream television network, and you could do this on, I'm just going to, equivocate this on an engineering level, right? If you walk into what's called a NOC, a network operations center, where a lot of this, magic happens, as you say, Jason, it's filled with tons and tons of people, minimum 30. but on average, probably around like 40 or 50, right? People that are just watching and maintaining the channel. And in order to steer a television network, it takes hundreds, 200 people just to make, programming changes and, onboard new talent, et cetera, et cetera. And something that I'm very, very proud of, and I know that Curt is very proud of, is how actually nimble we are and how we're operating with a team that is comparatively quite a bit smaller. And where we're at right now is just a launch pad to take us, just even further in the things we want to do, because we have started with such humble beginnings and we're able to do so much. And technology and the technology we're still building is a great, indicator of that.
Yeah, no, honestly, some great answers. And you touched on a big part. I think, and someone actually commented saying, you guys are smaller, it's easier to adjust and be on trend and stuff like that. Would they be, pretty much bang on in some cases in saying that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we operate still with a startup mentality where we have to be nimble. And, a great example is, I don't know do you know the thing, Jason, Adult Swim? Have you ever heard of Adult Swim?
Yep.
Is it in Canada?
It is.
Okay. So, there's a category that I would refer to as edgy animation. And I would throw into that category The Simpsons, Family Guy, and then take into a further extreme the stuff that would be on, the Rick and Morty type show, an Adult Swim type show. Back in the old days of my era in MTV, it would have been Beavis and Butthead. There's a long history of youth-driven, youth-oriented animation programming that's literally created the success of major networks that are now, household names. I mean, Comedy Central was driven by South Park. Fox was largely driven by, The Simpsons and later Family Guy. MTV was held up with Beavis and Butthead for a long time. These were critically important shows. We have found there's this sort of weird horror category that's been extraordinarily successful for it. We're doubling down on it because people love it. It's created by, if you look at the stuff on YouTube, it's hugely successful and popular. So, we found that it didn't just fall into our laps. We've been looking for that, and we found it, and we're finding more of it. And so these are the things that we're looking at when The Simpsons, when South Park went on to Comedy Central. No one had ever seen anything like that before. That was a whole new genre. And so that's something that's working for us right now. I don't even know if South Park is still on Comedy Central. I can't even remember. But the bottom line is that we're part of our DNA, part of our methodology is breaking out new stuff. And so I think part of what people are getting excited in India about the Q is that you're seeing new and cool stuff on the channel.
Yeah. And this goes right into the question. I know we ran through them before I hit record, and I know you kind of answered it right here. So I just want to say, someone asked here, I would like to know if there's a reason behind playing a lot of cartoons, on the channel.
Well, I guess I just answered that, but that the reason is A, it's very popular. The B is what you might be seeing as a cartoon would be like calling South Park, The Simpsons, or Beavis and Butthead, or Family Guy a cartoon. These are not Saturday morning cartoons for 3-year-old kids. These are horror stories and weird, edgy, bizarre horror stories. And, look, I'll be the first one to say, I don't really get it. I don't know what the nerve is that it hits that's made them so popular, but man, they are really friggin' popular. And again, as you should do in any programming situation, we're going to ride that wave.
Yeah.
For now.
No, honestly, it's a great answer. You're on trend, and we're able to talk about, hey, this is what's working. It's cool. People are interested. That's fantastic. Curious, it kind of goes into another question as well. Back to kind of the channel stuff. Someone asked here, it sounds like there's some great channels. I scroll through at night, in North America, and I can't find anything to watch. Is there a timeline for the Q to come over to North America?
Oh man, that's a long story. The very short answer is we kind of did that in the beginning and it didn't really work, but it was a very, very different version, I would argue, than what we do in India today. Yeah, I think anything is possible. I think as a company, India is a massive territorial opportunity. I mean, you can build a hugely successful brand and business there. And so I think in the shorter term, our focus right now is to do just that. What we don't want to do is make the mistake of expanding faster than knowing what really is working and why it's working and how it's working. And so, there's much more opportunity in India. I think I've mentioned it before. Imagine the concept of not the Q channel, but imagine the concept of Q networks, you know? So imagine the number of vertical channels that are built around that same brand identity, but follow specific categories like food or esports or, you know, gaming or fashion or whatever it might be, you know, animation could be any of these kinds of things. So I think that's more of where our focus is right now. In success, hey, sure, why not? Now, in terms of Q India going and any of what I've just rattled off going outside of India, definitely. We're already engaged in that. And there's a massive diaspora and population of Indians living outside of their home turf of India. 100% we're going to be going after that audience big time.
Yeah. No, awesome. Well, happy to hear. I'm sure, you know, Jay's kind of a tech question. I mean, how hard is it to have some, you know, video on demand, you know, for, again, like Curt said, Indians outside of India?
It's actually not that hard. So one thing that, you know, you're going to hear me say, I'm very proud of, I'll just say that repeatedly, is what we've built is a content agnostic API. All right. You know, or a content management system that any, you know, partner or, you know, whether it would just be us going directly to iOS, Android, et cetera, is very easy for us to spin up. And so the short answer is yes. I mean, we can go to VOD, and technically, in reality, if, you know, it aligned with, you know, the things that Curt, you know, and the rest of the team want to do, I mean, we could have something up relatively quickly, because the truth is, in the landscape that is the OTT market, you know, if it's coming directly from us, is that coding has become a little bit easier. I'm not saying that it's easy, but it's become a lot easier. And to generate these templatized apps that have these VOD experiences, it's very easy to get to market.
Yeah. No, good. Hey, a good answer. And so here we'll go on a little bit. This question I thought was interesting. It's got a lot of parts. So, Curt, you could tell me where you want to start. So I'll read it. You know, congratulations with the 10 mil.
Thank you.
How will you prioritize what part of the business is allocated what amount? For example, how much do you care about distribution versus content creation, and how can you balance the two? Does the USA business also need cash? I'm curious, any insight?
Okay, well, the first thing is we're still burning cash as a company, both in India and in the US to date. I almost slipped up just now and said something that I actually can't say until we release financials next week, but we're moving in the right direction, I'll say that. So the thing that's hugely important for us as a growth company is that this is truly growth capital that we've just raised. This is not survival capital. This is not keep the lights on capital. And trust me, we've had to do some rounds in the history of the company that were keep the lights on capital. And this is really to fuel strategic growth. Well, what does that mean? That means we have to make smart decisions about where we put it. Carriage in India costs money. Do we want to spend money on that carriage? Do we believe that we can return ad revenue and viewership numbers that will make that make sense? Well, we have to go through that process and then pull the trigger. And as I said about the ad sales, there's always a delay between pulling the trigger and when you see that pay off. So there's things like that that will happen. Content, absolutely. We want to be a content place that's creating unique programming for our own channel, but we don't want to do it at the expense of spending, you know, $5 million on some series and finding out that we were all wrong and it's a stiff. And trust me, a lot of companies have seen that happen. So we're not really built to do that. So this is everything we're going to do with this money is going to be tactical, and none of it's going to be done with some sort of knee-jerk thing, and none of it's going to be done, frankly, with a hunch. I mean, you know, in addition to all the data that we've been receiving that Jace has been talking about, you know, we're doing our own independent study right now, looking at a couple of key distribution partnerships that we're looking at forming to make sure that it's not just our hunch that's having us step up to do something, but that it's backed up by, you know, data and research that says, yeah, this is a smart move. So that money, you know, I mean, you know, we're not buying a corporate jet and doing offsites in Maldives, you know, with that. This is money that's meant to be used very tactically across every aspect of our business: distribution, content and programming, ad sales, marketing. All of those things are going to be touched by this.
Yeah, no, interesting question here where, you know, he says, how do you balance, and I'd love to know more just from my own curiosity, how do you balance distribution versus content? You know, are you guys at a comfortable part where you're like, hey, I think we have it, but you're always trying to improve, and now it's get into households and then get better content, or how do you balance it?
Look, at the end of the day, we're meant to be a profit-making business. So, you know, on the one hand, in the most harsh and brutal sense, I can say everything's based on one thing. Will it make us money? Do we believe we can make money doing this? Now, there might be situations where we say, well, we can't make money in 6 months, but we think we can make a lot of money in 2 years if this works the way we think it's going to work. Well, now we're in a position to underwrite that effort if we believe, because of data, because of knowledge, because of experience, because of feedback, whatever it might be, that we believe that we can go after something and be a bit more aggressive, because having, you know, to make up a number, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 at risk for 6 months isn't going to take the company to its knees. We haven't been in that position previously. And so sometimes, you know, that stunts your growth because you can't take a risk. And when you're in a explosive growth area like we are, when you're explosive growth country like we are, you have to take some risks. And 100% of the time, they're not going to happen. Or sometimes what you thought was going to pay off in 2 years might take 4 years to pay off. But that's the kind of stuff that we'll be doing. And again, it's going to cross every area. I mean, as we stated previously, our goal is to build a household brand in India. I want to be in 3 years, 5 years from now, point where if you see a kid in India and you go, have you ever heard of the Q? They look at you like, well, of course I know the Q. You think I've been in a cave for the last, 3 years? So that's what we're driving towards. That's where real value will be created. And that's going to, this is going to fuel every aspect that's needed. There's no silver bullet. It's a process.
Yeah, no, good answer. And this question made me laugh. Curt, you must love your baseball because you talk about innings all the time. I hear you talking that we're still in the first inning. I'm curious what you see as an example of we're getting into the second inning. For you, what does that look like? When do we know the second inning has started?
Actually, it's a tribute to my father. My father was a big baseball fan. I'm really not that big of a baseball fan. I'm a sports fan. And I'll put, NFL football and hockey way behind that, so I can start to say we're in the first quarter or the first period. But there's only 3 or 4 of those. It doesn't feel like it has quite the proper amount of longevity for an analogy. So look, and maybe it comes from my years associated with Lionsgate. John Feldheimer, the still CEO of Lionsgate, used to always talk about how Lionsgate was looking to hit singles and doubles while the studios were all relying on on their things being home runs. So maybe it's just where I come from. But the reason I use that is that is really meant to say we're in this for the long haul. Again, India takes time. This stuff takes time. And I mean, my other joke is I say we'll be an overnight success in 10 years. And, this stuff hasn't happened overnight. We've been going at it for, 3.5 years in India. First year, we didn't even get on the air. It took us a year just to get our first distribution deal done. Literally a year. Took a year before we finally got our first distribution deal done. So, that's what I mean when I say we're in the first inning. Everything up to this point, we've been warming up, and I don't care what sport we want to talk about. But the reason I say that, yeah, I think we are entering the second. I think we're entering the second and the third inning right now. This is where now the games. Now we're into the game. You can go into a baseball stadium and miss the first inning. It usually doesn't really matter. Now the game's really going. And we're figuring out who we are, what's going on, what's working, what's not working, and expanding upon that. And so that's why I use that vernacular. There's a lot of things that are going to happen and develop over a time period that's not going to be between now and the end of 2021. If you really look, I'm not planning on going to another business, starting another, doing anything else in my career. This is it for me. And I plan on being here for 10 more years. So that means, you know, we might go into extra innings. So you know, it's almost like, you know, I think really if you're an investor in QYOU Media, yeah, it's wonderful. We've shot up. It's wonderful. The trading is going on. I hope people are making money. That's fantastic. I love that. But man, we have much higher aspirations than where we are at this moment. I can assure everyone of that.
Yeah.
Yes, very, very much so.
Jace, I'm curious for you. What does your second or third inning look like in terms of the Q? You know, are we in the second inning like Curt says?
So, I mean, part of the reason why Curt and I work so well together is, you know, he grounds me, right? Like he's always trying to be like, hey man, we're going to get there eventually, going to get there eventually. And so I defer to him on what inning we're in, but I know exactly where I want to be, you know, in inning 6, 7, and 8 even. So, I mean, I could talk on that for hours, but I mean, if you want me to, I can give you a quick summary of that. All right, I'll give you a minute and a half, right? Which is my whole entire dream, and this is my dream. This is why I work at this company. Is I want to create interactive, tactile experiences for viewers that they've never actually really had before. Now, and what I mean by that is like when people view content, they sit back and they just allow it to, you know, entertain them. But I want people to actually interact with their content. And in the past, interactivity has been something that's been put on as an afterthought, right? Just be like, you know, choose your own adventure. The format wasn't necessarily designed for it. So I want to create what's called a format revolution. I want the formats to be designed from the ground up to promote interactivity from, you know, Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3, and for people to like quite literally relearn how they watch and receive content. And the foundation of that, and I believe this to be true, is you're going to see that with things from all the way from microtransactions to VR interactivity, as well as augmented reality, and you know, being able to watch and view content in specified locations. And what Curt and the rest of the team are building is they're building an opportunity for a dreamer like myself to grow with the company and, you know, start funneling it into those directions. So I'm very excited about where we are currently because, like I said, the partnership I have with Curt is allowing me to start pushing the company in that direction.
The way I would state that, Jason, is when we're really firing on all cylinders, we will have to use a simplistic word, an e-commerce and transactional relationship with our viewers that makes them no longer just viewers, they're participants. And there's going to be monetization that's going to revolve around that. And it's going to be driven by current Gen Z and even younger and young millennials who have grown up in the world of interacting with their content, which is what social video is all about. Social video, by definition, is about interacting with it. That's what we feature. So you'll be seeing things over time where we're going to be heading deeper and deeper into that direction with our audience. That's where we're in the first inning, just starting that. Trust me, the Insta show has if someone really watches the Insta show and understands what's going on with it and hears this, they'll go, oh shit, I see where they're going with this. So if you want to see the beginnings, the very beginnings of it, watch the Insta show.
All right. Hey, some good teasers for things that come. And I know Jace, yeah, he was describing, you know, kind of, you know, like, you know, Web 2.0, Web 3.0, but then, you know, describe kind of, you know, TV, video content, all that stuff. We do a deep dive into tech coming up here. I want to go through a few more questions over the next 5 minutes, you know, maybe rapid fire wise to try and get to at least the majority of people. So here, got a question. Any US influencer marketing updates, or can we expect an update sometime soon in a press release?
Yes, the influencer marketing business here, you know, we don't talk a lot about it. It's something that I'm shifting some of my focus to as we speak. We're planning on, there will be some announcements coming out from that group. The number one thing I'll say about that is we've been spending a lot of time mining the ability to work in new categories outside of the category that we specialized in, which was theatrical motion picture releases. So there are a lot of other categories that we feel that we could be in. I mean, you can imagine, again, some of those that are influencer driven, fashion, apparel, automotive, gaming, et cetera, et cetera. So you can assume that we're driving into all those categories. It won't happen at once, but the biggest plan for that group this year is not just increasing our revenue base, but increasing the category bases that we operate in.
Cool. No, good answer. What kind of stars do you go after in India? And I would love some additional information about how you find some of these.
Yeah, we're not, I would argue we're not as star driven as, you might think. First reason is, frankly, a lot of those people that are really established cost so much money. That's kind of not what our model is. Our model isn't paying exorbitant amounts of content for creators or talent that they make all the money and we don't make anything. That kind of doesn't really work for us. With that said, there's a part of it that's a discovery part of our platform that's involved, but also I think it's more category and subject based. It's sort of like what we were talking about with the animation earlier. That's a content category, a storytelling category, if you will, that we have found a lot of traction with. Cooking is hugely important for us. We're trying to create more interactivity, as I just sort of alluded to with the Insta show. We are looking at some other programming that also goes into those directions. So we're more about the storytelling and the content than we are about the stars of the content at the moment.
Cool. No, a good answer. Someone here says, I know, Curt, you talk about distribution a lot. And after hearing you chat and doing some due diligence, I noticed that the Q is about 50% distribution as some of its competitors. Is there a type of timeline that we can expect to close this gap? Do we think it'll take 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? Or is this something that can be done a little bit faster?
Faster. Huge area of focus for us right now is increasing our distribution. Imagine, if you will, if we're nipping at the heels of youth channels in India with a fraction, 40% of the distribution that those channels have, imagine where we would be if we had an equal amount of distribution. You can assume, whoever asked that question, that that's what I spend a lot of time working on right now. Stay tuned, strap on your seatbelts.
Get ready for the rocket. No, got it. Hey, good answer. Good little teaser there. Here, someone asked, and maybe for both of you guys, what viewership number, if you have one in your head, is what you would determine as success?
To me, it's more of a GRP number. Which again has different factors that create that. I think our target right now at 4.4 is we want to get to 10 GRP. That's our next plateau. That's what we talk about all the time. How do we get to 10 GRP? My previous answer about distribution is obviously a huge part of that. Where do we really want to be? We want to be at 20 GRP, 20 plus. That's what we're going for.
What makes you crack open the wine bottle, Curt? What number?
When we hit 20 GRP, I'll crack open the
champagne.
I'll go shoot straight past the Dom Perignon and go straight to Cristal.
Okay. Jace, what's your number? Curious.
Honestly, for me, it won't be any number. It will be the second that we create these interactive experiences. The first time that happens, then I'm done. I'm just done.
By done, you're just happy you're not done with the company. I just want to make sure people get that.
No. Oh yeah, no. He'll never let me leave. Curt keeps on finding ways to keep me around.
I'll chase him through the snow behind him and grab him by the ankles. But no, what I was going to say, Jason, the real number for me actually isn't GRP. The real number for me is revenue. So I'm not going to say what those numbers are just yet, but there's a couple of revenue plateaus on a monthly basis of monthly revenue that's when I'll be popping the champagne. Until that translates into revenue, it doesn't really matter to me.
Got it. I know Curt can't talk about his upcoming plans, but I'm curious if he can answer a simple 1 to 10 on his excitement for the outlook on 2021.
God, I thought that question was going a different direction, like to talk about, one of my children or my ex-wives or something. So look, I think I've said it before talking to you, Jason. I'm the most excited I've ever been since we started the company. When you start a company, there's always a very, very high level of excitement. And then when things start to not work the way you want, that starts to dissipate and then can dissipate really quickly. We are the best position. There's no question. We are the best position right this minute than we've ever been in the history of QYOU Media. I know Jace knows that. I know that. We all know that. Now we got to go. Now it's like, no, but it's game on. Now it's game on. All this hard work, all this BS we've been through, all this fighting, all this toiling, all these, dark periods. Now it's game on. And so it's like, now, Jace and I talk about it all the time. Now we got to work harder than we've ever worked. And 2021 is the most important year in the history of this company.
Yeah, I want to chime in on that real quick because it's absolutely true, and I don't want it to be so trivial, right? Like the reason why I work for this company is I'm quite literally chasing my dreams. Like I want to build something that matters to me, and I hopefully matters to humanity. And this is the first time in the company's history that we've actually had the opportunity to go chase it, right? To really, really, really go for it. And Curt and I both aren't the type of people, whenever we have opportunities, just to sit back and watch them pass us by. This is the most active, the most hungry, and the most inspired, I would argue, that we've ever actually been in the entirety of the company. And we're ready. Like we're ready and we want it. We want it so badly.
No, awesome. Well, hey, that's all my questions. So unless Jace, you've got a few, maybe one that you want to go through here. I know it's been a pretty long video. And again, I want to thank everyone who submitted some pretty amazing questions. The quality of these are fantastic. I appreciate everything. Curt, Jace, anything you guys wanted to say? Any questions you've been getting that I didn't cover?
Yeah, the only thing I'm going to add real quick on my side is, look, I know we've been a little bit quiet for a while. You should assume that quietus indicates that we've been grinding and working and fighting to make some of the things that we've been talking about on this and other interviews happen. So I think people are going to be excited about what they're going to be hearing coming from us here in the coming, months and quarters.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Jace, anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, just like I want to reiterate like this interactivity thing just one more time is like, because I feel like it's important, right? Which is that, a lot of people have had ideas about interactivity in the past, right? It's not, we're not going to be arrogant and say this is our idea, like that we came up with it, we invented it. I just want to let people know that the way we're building the channel now, today, and that we built previously, we've built it always with this in mind. That means that we've been engineering from the beginning things that you're not going to see for a while, right? But the groundwork that is being laid today to allow us to pivot in that direction when the time is right? The code, the personnel, the format design, everything is leading us to that. And I feel that separates us from a lot of people that have attempted it previously.
And the final thing is we're trying to figure out how to get COVID shots, both of us, as quickly as possible because we're jonesing to get
Absolutely.
Back. We haven't been to India for a year. We got to get back there. We've been locked out.
Well, there you go. You have to give us an update when you finally get it. But guys, thanks for joining.
We'll do an update from India.
Oh, that'd be a great one. Well, cool. Curt, Jace, thanks for joining. Jace, looks like you've got some fun planned for the weekend, so I'll let you go.
Oh, absolutely not. No, like quite literally. I want to stress this, like, because this is true. I mean, Curt knows me really well. You guys don't know me that well. It's like, this is what I do when I need to think. I go out into the middle of the woods or, somewhere like this, and I have my laptop. Right now, actually, I'm tethered to my laptop on my phone. That's how I'm actually talking to you right now. And there's not really good internet here. I want a separation from distraction, and that's what this is about.
Oh, awesome. Well, hey.
Okay, we'll stop distracting you. Go back to work.
Guys, thanks so much for joining. Again, thanks everyone for their questions. Look forward to seeing you guys next week.
Thanks, everyone, for your support. Stay tuned. Good stuff's coming.